Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. This is Rappler's Election Series, hashtag the leader I want. In October, Senator Antonio Trillanes, Sonny Trillanes, formally declared his vice presidential candidacy. He was the third to do that among the incumbent members of the Senate. Trillanes first came out, if you don't remember this, I remember it clearly, he joined politics after leading the 2003 Oakwood Mutiny to protest corruption in government. That was the first time we met in the middle of that rebellion. He then faced rebellion charges, but he ran for senator and won in 2007. In 2010, President Benigno Aquino granted him amnesty, and that allowed him to enter the halls of the Senate. Today, he's running for vice president, second highest post in the country. What's next for Senator Sonny Trillanes? Thank you for joining us, Sonny.
Yes, good afternoon, Ms. Maria, and to our audience.
So please, the last time we really chatted was, I just remembered you, this idealistic firebrand in the middle of taking over Oakwood. And I guess flashback from that time until now, what's changed in Sonny Trillanes?
Well, a lot has changed. You have a more refined and polished, I hope, Sonny Trillanes, because I would have to look the part, talk the part, which is a senator of the Republic. But I would like to believe that the ideals and principles and the desire for a better country have remained the same.
But that mutiny also landed you in a lot of trouble. Again, this idealism that you had, which I thought was very real when we met then, right? I could see you also, in your eyes at that point, losing faith in the people who were supposed to be. You were left holding the bag.
Yes, we were very frustrated back then because we actually believed that what we were doing was the right thing. That we can't afford to have a president who would actually have her own people killed just for profit and just for political interest. But through the 7 years that I was detained, I was able to reconcile the needs of the people and how they want it to be achieved. They were not prepared to the abrupt change and uncertainty that our coup, or whatever you call
mutiny.
it, was the mutiny was going to bring in. So we took the route that they're more comfortable with, which is the electoral route. That's why we ran in 2007.
Let me ask you again, though, about that time period. Were you left holding the bag? Were you angry?
No. We believe that we did it for our own reasons. Some people may have wanted to take a ride along with it or have vested interests that are attached with it, but we didn't care about that. We were doing it for our own reasons. That's why when we failed, we took it as men and got ourselves incarcerated for quite a long time.
If you had it to do over again, would you do it again?
Definitely. I believe it's the path that was chosen for us. We needed to go through that phase. I would like to believe that our idealism or the sense of a vision that we have for the country were not grounded to certain realities. And that phase that I spent in detention brought me to the ground and got me to see things in a wider and a better perspective.
What lessons have you learned since then? You talk about now how you've shifted from mutiny, from armed rebellion, to change the status quo, to politics. You're now trying to do change from within, I'm assuming, right?
We are changing and breaking conventions. Even the 2007 run, that by itself, I would like to believe, is a form of revolution in campaign politics, because we did it from inside the detention cell as independent, and we didn't have any money. All of those things that supposedly a formula for winning a campaign would have. And we broke it, and we continue to do it again, and hopefully in 2016 we'll do it again.
What have you learned, though? Lessons?
On so many fronts, there are so many lessons to be learned, but primarily it's about the people and the assumptions about what they think and what they feel. Being immersed in politics or in the media, we tend to assume that what we know is what the ordinary people would know. But once you put your ears on the ground, it's different. They have different needs and wants and different ways of acquiring information. So I believe that's one thing we tend to assume wrongly as national leaders. So we try to do something about that by getting our ears on the ground through our organization, the Magdalos.
Harking back to 2003, right?
Yes.
How would you describe politics today? Did anything surprise you once you got out of jail?
We assumed the worst before, but once I got in, it's actually so much worse than what we assumed. In politics, what you see is definitely not what you would get. There are certain personas behind the man that you see on TV or you read about in the newspapers. These are different personalities, different motivations about running. And that's what I feel most, because the people tend to be mesmerized actually by what they see on TV. And some politicians have mastered that art already.
That begs so many other questions, but let me, before I ask you what you mean about that, let me ask you why you want to run for vice president.
Well, I believe I have something to offer. I believe I can make a difference in the lives of the people, and we can better pursue our reform agenda in a higher capacity.
What do you have to offer that's different from the other vice presidential candidates?
Well, we actually have a genuine anti-corruption campaign, and it's deeply rooted. It's not about words or slogans. We actually represent a people who went through a lot of sacrifices just to bring that point across. And I believe that should count for something.
You talk about, when you were describing politics today, about behind the scenes. I mean, the manipulations behind the scenes. And you certainly know firsthand, because, again, I'll jump in and say this, but in 2003, you were manipulated, or you allowed yourself to be manipulated for political purposes. Is that a correct statement?
Let's just say that we were naive around that time, that we thought the people we were talking to actually have the same passion and same aspirations we have for the country. But well, like I said, in politics, what you see is not what you'll get.
And now you're one of the politicians, though. And this is why I'm interested in knowing how you've changed. I mean, you've been involved in backroom negotiations. I mean, you know the way things work behind the scenes. How can you be part of it and change it at the same time?
Well, for as long as our desires for the betterment of the country would be the same, it's merely an extension to my previous profession, which is as a soldier. You're given a mission, and the mission is presumed to be for the interest of the country. So it's just the same thing as far as that is concerned. Now, for the methods or the means available to you, it's very different.
Let me ask you about the Filipino public. You've spent a lot of time looking at them. How would you describe them today? What do they want in their leaders?
Well, they're hopeful. At the same time, they're frustrated with the status quo. They want more, and they believe, I believe rather, that they deserve more than what their government is giving them. And I'm not talking about entitlements. I'm talking about the basics of really looking out and promoting their welfare. So, but knowing Filipinos, this what I found out, that regardless how difficult their circumstances are, they find ways to be happy. I believe in a way, it's a good thing that we are a happy people. Um, Now, the politicians are taking advantage of that because, in our term, mababaw ang kaligayahan. They just give them crumbs because they know Filipinos would be happy just the same. But that's the thing. If government will, on its own initiative, give them what they deserve, then they could even be happier, right?
So the anti-corruption agenda is one that stayed with you through these
Yeah.
years. This generation is different. These elections are different. Comelec says that up 39%, nearly 40% of the registered voters are young, are youth. What role do you think the youth and technology will play in selecting leaders?
It's, of course, the primary source of information for this generation. And that's where I believe responsible journalism could come in so that they can flesh out the propaganda and the truth. Fact checking would be a new thing that we can input in the 2016 elections. And I believe, but it's a double-edged sword. It can be used as a propaganda or as a what's this? Sorts of a wave, wherein human beings, by their nature to just conform, they'll just follow that wave instead of being more scrutinizing of their future leaders or prospective leaders. So it's still a medium that we have yet to really harness and polish at the same time.
So I asked you this earlier, but I want to zoom in again on this. The man, how you've changed from you said a naive, the man who went up against the government, right? Because of principles. And then today, a politician who's going in, running for vice president. You said that you learned that Filipinos didn't want a coup attempt at that point. But what else have you learned? How else have you changed? Something more concrete for us.
Well, just by the way I dress up, I wouldn't be dressing up like this.
But as a leader,
But as
tell
a
me, Antonio Trillanes,
Okay.
Sonny Trillanes, what is this leader? What is important to you as a leader?
Well, as a leader, as you know, that's actually something that is really deeply inculcated in every soldier, especially those graduates from the Philippine Military Academy. We eat and talk about leadership day in and day out. So we give premium to leadership. Now, the kind of leader that I believe this country needs is, first of all, somebody who has a pure heart, or somebody whose heart is in the right place. He or she'll be running for the right reasons, and what's the term? He or she should have a malasakit sa tao. Now, that's where it starts, because it would guarantee the purity of intent in policies, right? Now, if you put in an evil person there, regardless whether he would have 10 PhDs, but he will just use it for his evil ends, right? So that's where it starts. A good person, next, is he or she should have a vision, a clear vision where he wants to lead his country, or how his country should look like 6 years from now and beyond, because he will be setting in place a plan that would transcend his term. Now, that's the second thing. The third one, he should have a concrete plan of action so that the public will know how he intends to do it. Then finally, he should have the leadership capability so that he can inspire his people to follow his lead. So I believe those are the ingredients, and we'll be okay as a country.
What is
right?
your path to winning? How do you gauge your chances of winning?
Well, if we're going to reckon uh, our chances back in 2007, I believe we're 10 times more likely to win now than uh, back in 2007. So, but the landscape is different. Even the election is different for vice president. This is a
Yes.
one-on-one thing.
Yes.
Our formula is still the same. It's through the grassroots network. We believe it's very cost effective. We won in 2007 with 5 to 6 million pesos. We won in 2013 with around 30 to 35 million pesos. And we believe we can win it again through the same path. It's a mode of disseminating information. Ours is grassroots, house to house, person to person, direct selling, so to speak.
So you don't think a party machinery is important?
It is. It is important because once you win,
Yeah.
the party, the alliances would be necessary so that you can pursue your legislative agenda.
Right. But it's not necessary to win. Well, you've won without it.
Yes.
Right? So,
In some cases, yes. In our experience, one of the things I learned in campaign politics is if you have a personal friend who is a governor or a mayor, then that's the only time you can rely that the support will be brought down to the people on the ground.
so
But, yes.
even if you have a political party, you're not actually sure that everybody will follow party line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, except if the party was harnessed or was reinforced by personal relations.
Right.
So that's what I actually meant. Personal relationship, deep personal relationship with the local government leaders is more important than party affiliation. At least as of the moment, that's the status quo.
In terms of, as a vice president, you would have to work with any presidential candidate who wins. So let's take them apart, the strengths and weaknesses and the way you see them, and who you would prefer to work with the most. I mean, the Liberal Party's the candidate, Mar Rojas, his strength and his weakness.
Okay, let's just say that, let's just talk about expectations. Under a Mar administration, we would expect more of the same thing. Nothing drastic either way. We would be floating around. So, from a point of view of a reformist like myself, I'd be a bit impatient because having seen the people on the ground, the poverty on the ground, you can't afford to let them wait. Change and government services should be given now as soon as possible. So that's the Mara administration. So for those who are inclined or are benefiting from the status quo or would prefer the safe environment, then they can go with Secretary Mar. Now, for Vice President Binay,
Sorry, can I ask you the weakness of
Yeah.
Mar?
the weakness of Secretary Mar would be his tendency to vacillate. Okay. Again, coming from somebody who gives a premium on leadership, you would want a very decisive leader, a decisive commander-in-chief, because lives are at stake, and for ordinary people, their welfare is at stake.
And then Vice President Binay.
Vice President Binay,
Sorry, can you work with Mar Rojas?
yes, he's a friend, and we don't have any bad blood. Now, for Vice President Binay, I led this investigation, so I've seen up close all sorts of anomalies that he committed in Makati. People can say that these are allegations, but from an investigator, you know whether it's true or not. And I am convinced that Vice President Binay is a plunderer. And what would you get by electing a plunderer? You don't expect the guy to have an epiphany at some point, then change his ways. No, that guy will plunder even more. And just looking at the the Makati template that he did. After his term, he laid the ground for his own family. And that's how he works. He only trusts his family. So we'll now have a Binay dynasty all over the country.
So his plunder, does he have any strengths?
Okay, the strengths of Vice President Binay is rooted on his local executive experience.
Right.
But then if you take a closer look about his programs, there's nothing really extraordinary about them. Because I believe all the other cities and municipalities could have done better than him should they be given the resources that Makati had. So that's the thing. Now, as for weakness, well, there you go. He's a plunderer.
Right.
Yeah.
You've been clear. Could you work with him if he wins and you win?
Let's just say that I will respect the mandate of the people. If that's their choice, then I'll deal with that. But I will not abdicate from my role as an overseer and a fiscalizer of a Binay administration.
In terms of Grace Poe, Senator Grace Poe, she's having a lot of issues now thrown at her. But what do you think of her strength, her weakness?
Okay, just to be transparent, I am supporting Senator Grace Poe.
Yes.
Okay, and I saw in her that more than anything, that ability to inspire the people. She represents change. She represents something new or different from the status quo. Whereas compared to Secretary Mar, who represents the status quo, if the status quo is not inspiring for you for the next 6 years, then you have a fresh face, Senator Grace Poe. And what I liked about her in my dealings with her is she's pure. She has a good heart. I believe that's what she refers to when she's saying ipagpapatuloy niya ang ginawa ng kanyang ama, which is that generous spirit. And that's what we need, a government that has a heart. Otherwise, if you have a callous or insensitive government, you'll be talking about macro policies that may not trickle down to the ordinary man. So that's what you need. And since she's not tainted with corruption, and based on my dealings with her so far, she's very decisive. And you'll have to give her credit. She was given this opportunity to have an easy path to the vice presidency, all expenses paid, no legal problems.
Right.
But she chose the difficult path, which is directly serving the people and making the difference in their lives. So that should count for something.
Some people would say that she was too ambitious. Is she too ambitious?
Well, no. I believe the opportunity just presented itself. If she didn't have that opportunity, or in other words, if she's not ranking in the surveys, I don't think she would go for it.
And her weakness?
Her weakness is she's definitely new. She may not have seen the evils of Philippine politics, and she may be blindsided, as I was blindsided early on.
And then the last candidate is Senator Santiago.
You have Mayor Duterte still.
Sorry, Mayor Duterte. Oh my gosh, how could I
Okay.
forget? Oh, nga. Sorry,
Okay,
I was.
yes.
So let's go, Mayor Duterte,
Okay.
the wild card that is actually creating a lot of furor and sparking debate.
Yes, Mayor Duterte is coming in at a time that there is a demand for somebody like him, or at least somebody that they believe he is offering. So that's why his numbers are picking up.
Yes.
But I would like the public to pay or to scrutinize him deeper, because actually he's being upfront. He's saying once he becomes president, he'll start killing people, whether criminals or whatever.
Right.
Then he'll shut down Congress. He will declare a revolutionary government. you'll have to try to envision what that entails, what it means for you as a person. If you like that, then by all means vote for the guy. If not, then campaign against the guy. Because we went down that path before, and in a way I was relieved that our Oakwood mutiny didn't succeed, because we wouldn't have known the elements who would ride along in that incident. So there's a danger, I sense it, with the Duterte administration.
Does that show something about the frustration of Filipinos, though?
It shows a lot. It shows a lot about the status quo. And it also is manifested by the fact that the status quo candidate is not picking up.
Correct.
So I'm not saying that the president didn't do anything, but probably in the perspective of the ordinary Filipino, he didn't do enough. Probably he may have dealt with the macro stuff, but the micro was not enough.
And the last candidate, Senator Santiago.
Senator Santiago has health issues, and I've seen her up close. She's a brilliant person. She's well read, and she's very decisive. She has not afraid to take on big interests. But then I believe the health issue is something that we should be concerned about.
Now you're, in terms of the vice presidential candidates, I mean, some people could say that the vice presidential candidates actually offer that race may be closer and harder to win. Who do you consider your toughest rival there?
For now,
the man or woman to beat?
For now, I believe the man to beat is Senator Chis Escudero. He has invested a lot of political mileage, and he's the default top-of-mind choice of most Filipinos. Then you'll have Senator Bongbong Marcos.
Yes.
He has a cult following, and that's going for him. The Marcos, what's this? The much vaunted Solid North. And I've seen that. When he was not in the service, we conduct in-house polling, by the way. When he was not on the list, the Ilocano voters tend to go for Senator Escudero and myself. But when he came along, he wiped out everything. So there's that base. Fortunately for us, that base is not too big. Region 1 and 2, except for Pangasinan. So it's significant, but not that big. The one thing going for him is when you ask the people who would like to vote for him, they're saying, buti pa ng panahon ni Marcos. So they reminisce the good things about Marcos. So even though if it's not Senator Marcos himself who was responsible for that, he's benefiting from that.
Right.
Now, on the criticism side, they're saying we don't want the human rights violations of the Marcos regime. But then he would come in and say, but that's not me.
Yes.
That's my father. So he gets to have the best of both worlds. And as a campaign strategy, they've been feeding on that. Yeah. So as for Senator Cayetano, he's based on our latest polling,
yes,
his numbers are picking up because of the Duterte effect. So he's playing that to the hilt that he is the partner of Mayor Duterte. Now for for Congressman Leni Robredo,
yep,
she's the administration candidate. They have all the resources. In just recently, they launched this music video with
Yes.
all those big stars, so she can benefit from that. However, when we were going around the countryside, people tend to ask about who she is, because voting for the president and vice president is something personal, because
Yeah.
it's only a choice. You only have one choice. Whereas the Senate, they can try you out, they can
Right.
check you out. So I'm not confident that a majority of the Filipino people would risk that. And she's nice. She's a very nice lady, but she's still untested in as far as going against the evil elements of society. Right? We can be nice, but sometimes nice is not good enough.
Right. We still have a ways to go before elections, the 5
Mhm.
months moving to May 2016. What are you
Mhm.
going to do in those next 5 months, and what do you want Filipinos to be looking at?
Well, we want the Filipinos primarily to scrutinize all the candidates, of course, but they have to ask themselves, who among these candidates best represent their ideals and aspirations for the country? The next, who among these candidates would abuse power if given to them? And that's where the Duterte issue would come into play. Would they use it to oppress people, right? Or will they use it at all? Because it's going to be a waste if you're given power but you're not use it for the betterment of the country. Then the third one is, who among these candidates will actually commit corruption or steal money from government? You have the track record there. People who have been involved in certain anomalies in government. You'll have to expect that once they are in power, they will steal again. You will have to assume that. You cannot be a Pollyanna and expect beautiful things to happen once they're there. No. You already have a trend. You have a pattern of behavior. So they'll have to look at that. Plus, they'll have to sift through the propaganda, the pronouncements, the campaign slogans, and the platforms to actually base it on the track record of these
The candidate,
candidates.
right.
Because if they're saying all these things now, and yet you ask yourself, but you've been in office for the past 12 years, what have you, do you have anything to show for that?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Your last thoughts now. I mean, I asked you your toughest lesson. Can you talk about one instant where something you expected in politics, or something you expected just was so different? Back to a lesson that you learned, something that showed your movement from that naive young man, your words, the naive young man, to Senator Trillanes today.
Well, I've yet to learn all these lessons, but just to cite one example, there's this candidate right now who actually told me straight to my face, looking straight into my eyes, and said, "Pare, hindi ako tatakbong vice president." And he's now running. So that's just the kind of people you're dealing with. So, but the public, of course, they won't have that opportunity to know them on a personal level. So, they'll just have to follow their gut feeling, I guess.
Fantastic. Double speak. It seems like there's so much more to pull out, but we'll continue talking to each other in the months leading to the May elections.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
ma'am.
coming.
Thank you, ma'am.
We've been speaking with Senator Antonio Trillanes on politics, running for vice president, politics in the Philippines, and the 2016 elections. I'm Maria Ressa. Thank you for watching. #TheLeaderIWant.